Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this morning's episode of JA's Recipe for Success. I'm your host, Lori Salarulo, and I'm the proud CEO and president of Junior Achievement of South Florida. You know, we started this show a little bit over a year ago. We've been in my kitchen now since the pandemic. And so welcome to my home. And someday, soon, I hope, we'll be back at the JA World Huizinga Center at the Lillian S. Wells Pavilion catering kitchen in our amazing facility. And by the way, I have to put a plug in because if you have not been there, you absolutely need to go see this facility. I promise that you will use the word wow at some point in that tour or visit. We started this show so that we could bring to our audience on social media and also to our students the leadership qualities, the ingredients to the success of many of our community and business leaders here in Broward County and in South Palm Beach. And it has been a real success. And this is how our students get to learn and be inspired and be motivated. So I hope you've enjoyed the show. If you haven't seen all of the episodes and you want to check them out, they're on our website, jasouthflorida.org. And so this morning, I have the pleasure, often some of our guests are people that I know really well and I've known in the community for a long time. This morning's guest, I've known of her for a very long time, but I didn't know her. I'd never really had a conversation. And so we recently had a virtual coffee and got to know each other a little bit. And it was just such a pleasure. And I said, you have to come on the show. And so this morning's guest is someone that's been involved in our Fort Lauderdale community. She's the president and CEO of the Fort Lauderdale Downtown Development Authority, which is a public-private partnership created, and she'll tell us all about that, by the legislators to promote growth and investment in downtown Fort Lauderdale. And boy, is Fort Lauderdale ever growing these days. So help me welcome Jenni Morejon.
I love it. Good morning, Lori. Good morning.
Good morning. Oh, we're so thrilled to have you. Fort Lauderdale has been my home since I moved here, actually just about 30 years ago this month. And I can't even imagine living anywhere else in South Florida. I truly love it here, and I love our city, our leaders. And so I want to start, first of all, but I was not born here. I was born in New York, for those of you who don't detect that accent, which is pretty hard not to. So are you a native Floridian? Where do you come from?
Quick kind of rundown of my chronology through geography. So I was born in Charlotte, North Carolina, but only lived there less than a year. Moved down here. My folks bought the house that my mom was born and raised in, up in Pompano Beach. And so that was really exciting. And then when I was kind of the ripe age of about 13, we moved out to Western Colorado. A total transformation. I think I told everyone I was from Miami and I faked a Spanish accent because I just wanted to, be cool at that age. But I had really great opportunities growing up in a smaller town in Colorado, and went to college in Boulder. Long story short, moved down here in 99. So just a little over 20 years ago. And so I kind of feel like I'm back home. And we live back in Pompano Beach. And a quick anecdote, the house that I grew up in, that my mom grew up in, was up for sale a couple of years ago. And I told my husband, I'm like, we got to buy it, third generation, but we didn't. But so I feel like I'm from here.
Well, and it's interesting. I mean, I think when you move around, going from Florida to Colorado, that is quite a shock, temperature-wise, especially. But as a teenager, right, there's wow, I can't even imagine, right, having to have moved, right, from where I grew up, and then moved to a new place in my teenage years. They're tough enough, right? And so I guarantee there are some ingredients, right, some lessons that came from that. And that adjustment. Talk a little bit about that as a teenager, because many of our viewers are young teenagers. So
absolutely. Well, I'm the oldest of three kids, and we're all almost 6 years apart in age. So I've always been pretty independent, had a lot of my own time, and with that, a lot of my own internal kind of thinking. And sometimes that comes with a lot of confidence because you're on your own. So I think part of that helped me get through that transition of being, in a new place. I felt like I could do it myself. I didn't, need to rely on anyone. But, I've learned through the years, and still, you never stop learning, that you don't have to be always independent. You don't have to just keep all those thoughts inside, find the network around you to rely upon. And so when I was a teenager moving out there, I made friends. It's a small town. And, I've always kind of been a bit of a chameleon. I can kind of fit in with a lot of different people. And, when you're 13, you're not really thinking of what are these lessons you're learning, right? You're just going through the best you can.
Trying to survive at 13.
You're trying to survive. So, I think it's, having some recognition that your family, whether it's your mom, your dad, whoever is there in your life, are probably making the decisions that they feel are best for them as a family or for you as a child. And they don't know it all either, but I think believing that they're trying and making the right decisions can go a long way and getting through some tough transitions when you're a kid. At least I'm telling my 13 and 15-year-old boys that right now.
Oh boy. Yeah. Yeah. So imagine, right, them going through that. I love that. I mean, there were like 4 main ingredients that I pulled out of that. And those are things that I think we don't realize, like you said, what we're going through at that time and the lessons we're learning, but they stick with us, right? The things that we learn through that. And I think we have choices, right? You made a choice to make it work, right? And to find a way to fit in this new place. And then there are others, right, who might not make that choice, right? It might become something that, is actually a detriment to them. So I love that you used it in a positive way. So you came back to Fort Lauderdale. Did you immediately get involved in government, public affairs, right? That's kind of the category I would put development.
So my dad's an artist. And when I was in high school and parts of college, when I would come home, I worked with him. He creates custom lighting fixtures and glass work, and a lot of beautiful pieces, functional pieces for homes. And so the homes that we would visit were just spectacular, up in the mountains, and people's second and third homes, kind of ridiculous, for me at the time. But it made me want to get into design, into building, into architecture. So that was the path I took in college. And then I realized, just as important as one great building is, kind of the fabric of a city. So, all the buildings, the people, the uses that come together. So I moved into the urban planning really direction. And when I graduated college, I came down here. I think I just wanted to be an independent young, 22-year-old woman. I had an idea, but not really a plan to go to University of Miami for architecture graduate school. But within just a few weeks of being down here, I was living with a family friend. I met Jose, who's my husband of 17 years this Friday. And I got a job at the city of Fort Lauderdale as an entry-level planner. I was actually, I was a host out at the Cheesecake Factory at Sawgrass Mills because I needed a job right away. And when I got the call for just the interview, not even for the job, but the interview for the city of Fort Lauderdale, I told Cheesecake, I'm sorry, I got to go. And the rest was kind of history. That was 20 years ago.
Wow. So 20 years ago, started out in an entry-level, right, position in the city. Obviously, now you're, the president and CEO of the DDA. There's a 20-year path there. Something you did worked really well, right? I'm sure lots of things you did worked really well. And so what was it? I always talk with our kids about standing out from the rest. What is it that made Jenni stand out from the rest?
Sure. I think that independent side of me, in many ways, lets me say, I'm going to do this because I think it's the right thing and not necessarily ask permission. Now, you got to be careful. You can't be reckless in that, right? But whether it's in personal relationships, life, or work, but when you see an opportunity and you can take it, whether it's taking a new assignment that wasn't necessarily given to you, or if you were asked to do A, B, and C, but you say, you know what, I can also do D, E, and F on that project. Maybe taking examples of the type of work that people were doing that were years ahead of me or in higher positions. When I was, taking on new projects, or if there was a vacancy, somebody, left a certain position, it was higher than me. I didn't wait to be asked or told, can you help out with this type of project because that person's no longer here. I jumped in and said, let me do it. And I think that really helped, set me apart, that my bosses and coworkers at the time said, she's going to get it done. Having that confidence again, but being very open and willing to learn. So sometimes, not asking permission, not waiting so you have to say you're sorry, but taking where you see a pathway where a door is cracked open just a little and opening that door fully and walking into it.
Yeah. So it's not that you weren't trying to say, don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. I think what you're really trying to say is take that, don't ask for permission, take initiative.
Take initiative.
Right? To jump in and get something done. The city has changed so much in the 30 years that I have been here. Talk a little bit about the work that you've been doing, and then I eventually really want to get to the vision as well for the city, because I think that's another part of leadership, right? In your role, what's the vision for the city of Fort Lauderdale? Sure. I know that you have a part in that. So talk a little bit about, what were some of the maybe critical points over the last 20 years that you think has led the city of Fort Lauderdale to such success?
It's really exciting to be a part of it and see change right before your eyes, things you can actually touch and see and feel. So, and I wasn't here 60 years ago, but I'll just give a quick kind of history because our organization does go back to 1965. Mm-hmm. And, for some in the community who are here, they'll remember that there was really no downtown. There was not development out pretty much west of maybe the Turnpike. But when a lot of that started to change and people started to move towards the center of the county or western suburbs, a lot of the businesses that were supported by people who lived in and around downtown started to go with them. So downtown kind of became a place where, people were living and working, and there were shops, and it was supported part of the economy, to a place where people really weren't. So the DDA was created to really focus investment and energy and thought leaders on how to improve the county seat. It's really the center of the county. So over the years, we purchase land. Our agency can go and buy land. We can, we then turn that land over to public agencies. And that's where we have the Broward Center for the Performing Arts today, the Museum of Discovery and Science, the Museum of Art, the library, parts of the Riverwalk and the parks along there. That was all land that we were able to purchase and then give back really to, the public. And those are the crown jewels of downtown. I mean, our office buildings and apartments are amazing because it creates that vibrant city, but those are spaces that we can all go to and we can all celebrate. And so those have been really some of the keystones of the agency I run, the Downtown Development Authority. But in the past 20 years, it's really been a focus, and especially in the past 10, of making sure that, in addition to about the 65,000 people who work in office buildings downtown, that there are residents who call downtown home. And we have great neighborhoods in and around downtown. But we have about 7,000 residential units, apartments and condos that have been built in the past 7 years. And half of those in the past 2 to 3 years. So there's people, there's an energy, there's a sense of community. And that's really what we've been focusing in on, is the experience that those residents and employees, and now, visitors. Downtown's also a place where people are coming to stay in hotels and not just our beautiful beaches. So it's creating that experience and making sure that this place is vibrant with all the services that you need to live in a downtown area.
Yeah, I do remember when I came here from New York. I had lived in Manhattan right before I moved down here. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to live here? There's nothing here, right? There was stuff here, but compared to where I came from, where there were theaters theater after theater on one block. And I was coming here and there was one theater. And it was certainly not, I think, of the prestige, right, that it is today. So I have just loved watching it grow. So how does the DDA work together with the Alliance, let's say, right, who's looking to bring businesses into our community, into Broward County? I have to imagine there's great synergy between the two organizations.
Absolutely. I mean, partnerships are key to everything we do. No one can do anything alone. And so, we work closely with the Alliance team. Really, our mission at the DDA from an economic development standpoint is kind of the cheerleader of the place, right? So we want to be out there with a megaphone saying how great downtown Fort Lauderdale is, but then we also have to carry out the important projects that make that real. And so we work with groups like the Alliance to learn, what does talent, new employees, what do they want in a city and in an experience, in a destination? Business leaders that are choosing to open their office headquarters or make it new office space down here. What are they looking for? Is it a certain type and offering of restaurants? Is it the kind of retail we need? Do we need parks that have, a certain feel to it? Do our streets make sense and they're safe and interesting, comfortable? So the Alliance, they're working directly with these business owners saying, come to Broward, come to Greater Fort Lauderdale, come downtown. And we're working with them to show why. So that's really it.
Yeah, I love it. And I agree. I mean, I can just imagine the list of organizations that you're partnering with. But you mentioned something that, of course, is near and dear to my heart and to JA's heart, which is the workforce, right? And I know that's what we do. It's at the very core of our mission, is preparing young people for the workforce, right? Whether it's entrepreneurship or working with other companies. And it's a real challenge these days.
That's right.
How are you involved in that piece? Are you involved in that workforce development piece?
Not as directly as a lot of the organizations that you partner with or that we work with. But, it is part of our broader mission of making downtown an inclusive, welcoming, and successful place to live, to thrive. And so, any great city has a range of job opportunities, right? We need folks to help make sure our streets are clean. We need people that are managing restaurants, but also serving in our restaurants. We need, people working in our education institutions and in public sector. There's a lot of different government jobs. So I think what we are trying to do is measure what are those job areas and where are there missing pieces? Do we not have certain opportunities in certain job classifications, and do we need to bring those in? Because a great downtown has a mix of opportunities for everyone, not just the person sitting in the corner office in these tall office buildings, but really opportunities for everyone. So I think using good information and data on different job types and numbers and where they're growing and maybe where they're lacking, the way that we can support that is working with our partners and groups like JA to really help bring in especially younger people, right? I mean, we have Broward College and FAU downtown. Mm-hmm. We right now don't have necessarily a primary school in the downtown core, but we're working with our partners at the city of Fort Lauderdale and the school district to say, how can we, take kids that are in elementary school and our middle and high schools and bring them into kind of a downtown discussion. What opportunities do you have for workforce for the future here? So you can stay.
Well, anytime you need those kids, let us know. We're very fortunate that JA has the opportunity to impact every single and interact with every single student from Broward County Public Schools twice, but in 5th grade as well as 8th grade, and then several thousand in high school. So always happy to provide our kids, right, as feedback, because I think we have to hear what they want for the future.
That's right.
I mean, look, the way they learn today is so different. The way that they're going to live is going to be different than the way I did. What they're going to want is different. And so we do need to listen. So I love that you're willing to do that. And since we're kind of touching on education, we're going to take a little break, let that simmer, because I've got a couple more questions. And we're just going to take a quick break and pay tribute to our teachers.
Awesome.
I love it. You know, this has been, a challenging year for so many, right? Organizations, for our community, for so many industries, but the field of education, right? I don't know that anybody faced challenges more than they did, both from an administration level as well as, right, our teachers on the front lines in the classrooms. And so JA is paying tribute to them. And anybody can pay tribute to them by going to our website and leaving a special message for a teacher. There'll be billboards coming out and ads thanking our teachers, because I don't know how our kids would have made it through this year without them. So, so thank you for all you do, all the teachers out there. So education, obviously, education, workforce, all of those things are part of what you're doing. I also noticed when I was looking at your bio, I want to talk about leadership. You talked about never stop learning. And I noticed that you are a graduate of Fort Lauderdale Chambers leadership program, as well as one that I am very proud to tell you that I actually created during my stint as CEO at Leadership Broward, which is Women Leading Broward. And I love that it's still going, right? And that, it really doesn't matter what money I raised for Leadership Broward or any of that. To me, my legacy there was that program, right? Because I knew there was a need for middle level women to learn about themselves, learn about being leaders, right? Were they on the right path? And so often there's learning opportunities for the people, like you said before, in that C-suite. And how do we make sure that we help women get there? Talk a little bit about that experience. Why is that so important to you, right? Learning.
There's a bit of an echo.
Yeah, I hear it. Here we go. Chris, I don't know. There we go.
Lori, timing is everything. And when I was going through the Women Leading Broward program, I was kind of at the peak of my career at the city of Fort Lauderdale. I was the director of a large operating department, hundreds of employees. I was really energized and we were on a solid track. We had gone through a lot of transition and new mission at the city, and that all ended. And it was almost overnight. And that's a whole nother episode. And I learned so much from it. And actually, like I said, when one door opens, when one door closes, a whole nother one opens. So I'm happy more than happy where I'm at today. But at the time I was going through Women Leading Broward, I was just leaving my, almost 16-year career at the city of Fort Lauderdale, the only job I've really ever had. And it couldn't have been better timing than to be inspired by the women that came and spoke to us on those class days, and to connect with colleagues in the class who had maybe gone through similar situations or had never. And I could talk about, how to get through that, or at least how I was trying to get through that at the moment. But what it did was it made me realize there's a million more pathways out there for me than the one that I've been on, that I thought I was going to be on for a very long time. And so, whether personal things happen in your life where you're on a path and it changes, or professionally, to be around a group of inspired and inspiring women. And in Leadership Fort Lauderdale, it's women and men, and it can be everything in between that. I mean, like nowadays. So, but it was just so good to be in an intimate setting where you could speak candidly, not have any sense of judgment, and get really good constructive feedback and support. I got a lot of just, you're gonna be fine, and sometimes you just need that. So the leaders that I heard from, Ginger Martin, I mean, I still call myself poco y poco. She talked about climbing up to the top of was it Mount Everest, and so
she's amazing.
Other women, I mean, and that's just one that came to mind. So those little nuggets of support, guidance, and inspiration have stayed with me through that program, Women Leading Broward. So thank you, Lori, because I didn't know that you started that.
I did. Yeah, I wanted to bring our leading ladies, right? That's what we called them. I wanted, women who were just entering into that mid-level or looking to figure out how they were going to make that next step from middle level, management, having them hear stories from people like Ginger, like Beverly Raphael, who talked about, right, her husband passing, and then ending up with this construction company, right? Something she knew nothing about, and to see what she's done. Juliet Rolick, right? I mean, just some amazing women. Then the list goes on and on and on of the women that we heard from. But I think you're right. That support system is so important. And it's funny that you went there and you talked about that change. You thought you were going to be on that path forever. Chris, I just want to tell you, there's still a little bit of an echo. Talk a little bit about that. So you got through that. One way was by having a support system, right? People that cheered you on, told you were going to get there, and it's confident, right, that you were gonna get there. What else was it? Because those are sometimes you can get sucked into, right, that feeling of how am I going to make it through here?
Sure. I mean, there was literal grieving that occurred, which sounds so, kind of silly in the past, year plus we've been through, where people have grieved because they've actually lost people, due to COVID and just other, terrible things. I left a job, you can get on from that, but I still had a sense of grieving. It was my whole kind of character, is what I knew, getting up every day and going. So I think I needed to kind of process that, and taking that support and that cheerleading, but also, taking a good week or more to just kind of sit back and let that emotion come through. And it transitioned over that couple week period from grieving to kind of power and belief that I know enough people, I know enough in the business. I'm going to start my own company. I have no idea how long that'll last or, where it'll go, but what do I have to lose? So, I did that. And I only, did kind of that consulting work for a few months, a handful of months. And then I came here to the Downtown Development Authority. But I think what that did was, empower me to know that sometimes you have to take a leap. And, you have to have a bit of a leap of faith. and believe in yourself. And one of my other colleagues said, fake it till you make it. And that goes so far. You can only, fake what you don't know for so long before that shows up. But if you know enough, you can sometimes fake the confidence until you are out there successfully. And so, that's kind of what pushed me through was, you have nowhere else to go. I applied obviously for other job opportunities, but I realized at that moment I was in the driver's seat, which was really uplifting. And there may be times in my future career where I don't have that same opportunity to really be in the driver's seat, but I think knowing that at the time really helped me push through.
Yeah. I think our students so often see us where we are today, right? When we go in and speak with them and we tell them our story. It is until we share some of those times when things didn't always go the way we thought they were going to go, right? And like you said, the door closed. I always say when one door closes, a better door opens, because inevitably, if you stay the course, as you said, right, and you don't let it paralyze you and you let it mobilize you, right, as you said, turning it into power, you find that, at the end, there's probably something better that might not have come along if it didn't happen. So, because we get comfortable where we are. And so we don't always look for those other opportunities. So I love that. I love when you said, turn the grief into power and action. You also talked about action. So I love that. These are some amazing recipes, ingredients to your recipe. I want to just talk 1 minute before we finish and talk about your main ingredient to success to hear, what's the vision for you? What's the vision for the DDA? Is there some big, bold vision that's coming? What's it look like?
So one of the most exciting projects, I think, so far in my career and what we'll be focusing on in the next several years is reimagining the public park space at Huizinga Park. So I know, Lori, your kitchen is named after Huizinga, and Wayne and Marty were just amazing contributors to not only our business community, our sports community, but also our community, the people, the places. And Huizinga Park is land that the DDA purchased probably about 40 years ago, built as a park 25 years ago, and named after Wayne Huizinga. And it's a great space. There's been numerous community events down there, a lot for the nonprofit realm.
Yeah.
And, it works great when there's big events, and it's beautiful. It's on the river. It's across from the Museum of Art. But if there's not a big event, it's not really that space that you go to have that cup of coffee necessarily. It isn't necessarily being enjoyed the other 300 plus days of the year. And we really envision at the DDA, my board of directors, amazing leaders of downtown, reimagining that space as a space for all that can be used, throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the year, a variety of activities, whether you could go there for a meal at a cafe or restaurant, or go sit under trees at a nice, table playing chess, or if you're playing with your friends and your dogs or kids running around, just a respite from the city with a sense of nature, of wellness, mental wellness, physical wellness, art and culture, and really drawing the river into the park and the park into the Riverwalk. So we've been working on a concept to kind of reimagine that space and work with our partners, the surrounding landowners, the business owners, our higher education institutions, the Museum of Art, the City of Fort Lauderdale, Riverwalk, and really saying, how can that park represent where downtown's come, but also where it's going in the next 25 to 50 years, a place for all. So we're really excited. We're in the process of determining, what that will take, both from a dollar standpoint, from kind of that sweat equity partnership building. And by about this time next year, we'll be probably wrapping up a formal design process and working our way towards a construction project where that space can be reimagined and still have great events, still be a place where the community can come en masse for community gatherings and events, but also a place that, for the thousands of people who live around it, for the thousands who work around it, or if you're visiting the hotel next to it, you want to just go out there and be part of a signature park that represents downtown Fort Lauderdale.
Oh my God, this is so exciting. I feel like I got the scoop. I didn't know about this. So now everybody got the scoop.
That's right.
That is really exciting. And I'm really glad to hear that, because I think, sometimes I believe in all the development that's happening. I think it's amazing watching our downtown area grow. But I think it's also important to have that space, right? That green space and that open space for people to gather. So I'm thrilled to hear about this project. Oh, I want you to keep me up to date on this. So, and anything, of course, that I can do or JA can do to help, please let us know. Happy to be a part in any way that we can of that exciting project. So I'm going to read some of your ingredients, and then I'm going to ask you to tell me what is your main ingredient to success. So you talked several times about confidence, right? Even when you don't feel it, right? Act like you feel it, and usually it will come, and you will feel that confidence. Never stop learning. You mentioned that a couple of times as well. Finding your network to support you. You talked about leadership a couple of times, trusting in leadership, right? Trusting that the people above you are taking the organization, taking you in the right direction. And so I think having that trust. There's a book we just read, we do a book club at JA, and it's called Chestnut Checkers. And one of the chapters is Bet on Leadership. And it's all about trusting your leadership. The fabric, you talked about the fabric of a city, right? And I also think about that as the fabric of your team, right? As you're planning and bringing all that together. Taking initiative, seeing an opportunity and taking it, not waiting, right, to be asked sometimes. Be open to learning. Again, you talked about learning above. Partnerships and the importance of partnerships. Using data to drive progress. You talked about that as well. Surrounding yourself with inspiring leaders. Taking time to process. I think so often we're running so quickly. We don't always do that. And I love that you took the time to process what you were going through at the time. Turning grief into power and action. Taking a leap of faith sometimes, right? And facing those fears. And that you're in you said this, and this really stuck with me, that you're in the driver's seat of your life. And I think that message, if nothing else, I hope that our kids take away from this, because they are in the driver's seat. And they can steer their life, right, where they want it to go. I don't mean the particular position, but they have the ability, right, to turn their life into something fantastic. So thank you for sharing all of those ingredients. So we always ask at the end, what is Jenni Morejon's main ingredient to success?
Wow. I think it's resiliency. It's being able to, and there's no just one word, but if I could use one word, knowing that life's experiences are going to keep coming at you. They're going to keep changing. They're going to be that range from the best of the best to sometimes the worst of the worst. And having some sense of optimism and faith that you're going to get through it, but not ignoring what it feels like and what it means to go through it. And resiliency is actually, getting stronger as things are happening to you to a detriment, whether that's our world, our environment, or us individually, or as a unit, a team at work, getting through just this experience we've all been through in the past 400 plus days, has created a more resilient, I hope, society where you have that confidence to get through it. You have the optimism that, we're going to get smarter and better as we go. And, some of that resiliency, as I mentioned, comes from that inward reflection. I talk in my head probably way too much. But what I've learned is, even though that helps me, having that team that complements me, that gives me different perspective, that has skills and personality traits that I don't, there's a balance in that. And you need that. If you surround yourself with people that are just like you, you're not going to keep learning. You're not going to change your perspective. And you probably won't be the best person you can be. So, being resilient through change, being a change agent, not being afraid to own that and do that. That's what, gets me motivated every day and pushes me through when either times are tough or makes me celebrate when times are good.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. This is amazing. And it has been such a pleasure to get to know you through our couple of calls, get to know about the work of the DDA. I can tell you that, Jenni, there has never been a time that your name has come up. And it's come up, and I often said, I can't believe I don't really know her.
Likewise,
I don't know her. But that it isn't always positive. And what you've gotten done, right? What you've accomplished, but just your ability to work with others, and everything is just so positive. So I'm so glad that you are now in my world, in a more intimate way than before, just from afar. And so thank you. Thanks for sharing with us today. Thanks for being the amazing leader that you are in our community, and for making Fort Lauderdale, the contributions that you've made to making this such an amazing city for us to live, play, and work. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. It was really my pleasure to be here today.
Yeah. Well, love it, love it, love it. And get out there, everybody. Get cooking. And we will see you next week on JA's Recipe for Success. Take care, Jenni.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.